Welcome to Lights, Camera, Cash, the podcast where creativity meets cash flow. I'm your host, Nicole Sellers, and I'm here to help you unleash the superstar within and turn your creativity and charisma into a money-making machine. Today, I am sitting down with one of my oldest and dearest friends, actress and mindset and audition coach, Lauren Buglioli. After going to school for early childhood education, Lauren felt the pull to take the stage and live out her dream of being an actress. She has since booked dozens of major TV and film roles, including Florida Man on Netflix, Vendetta with Bruce Willis, and Cinnamon with Damon Wayans. Lauren even started her own coaching business to help educate and inspire other performers to find their true sense of self in the spotlight, while building her own profitable business, doing a combination of the two things she loves most, acting and teaching. Lauren, welcome. It is so good to see you.
Hi, it's so wonderful to see you. And I should also have on there that I've studied with you because you know I'm your biggest fan.
Oh my gosh. Well, we hire each other. Full transparency. Lauren is a wonderful friend of mine, but also a fabulous acting coach. And I would not be where I am today without her. She has always given me so much confidence to go into auditions, to just take on the biggest roles. And I don't think I would be where I am without her. So thank you, Lauren, for that.
Well, right back at you. I'm so grateful for all your coaching and encouragement, and I'm so grateful to be your friend. So thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. First, I want to talk a little bit about your background. So you studied acting for many, many years, but we all know that things don't always go to plan, right? And we always have to kind of like pivot and figure out where to go after we graduate. And then we don't know if we're really going to make it. And what does making it mean anyway? And we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But after you graduated and you started kind of figuring out what the business was like, what were some of those pivots and detours that you had to really kind of navigate?
Oh my gosh, how much time do you have? So many pivots and detours. And, you know, you and I chatted about this as friends. I think when you're in the midst of it, you don't understand it. But I had a lot of pivots because I also love working with children. I'm also an educator. I have a degree in early childhood education and special education. And I worked as a child and then into my adolescence in entertainment. And then I felt this pull to be an educator as well. So that was a detour that, I think the reality of making a living as an actor scared me as I started to get older and kind of understand the weight of keeping the lights on while doing the thing I loved. So I took some time to focus on education, and I was a pre-K teacher in Manhattan, where I was living at the time. Now I go between Atlanta, New York, and LA. But I was strictly in Manhattan, and the reality of kind of being an actor and making it work uh, in the midst of trying to navigate the business, it was a lot. So I think taking a step back, I love to say, like, there's a difference between giving up and knowing when you had enough. And it was just a moment in my life where I needed a break from the business. So I I looked back, and then sometimes still look back and say, like, man, what would have happened if I hadn't gotten scared, if I hadn't taken a break to be a teacher? Because you kind of inevitably compare yourself to other people. And you and I were recently talking about, like, the gift of having those detours and perspective and multiple things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Um, I think realizing that it's all on purpose, that really my experience as an educator, I still teach. I still love to work with kids. That lights me up. And I think it's so important to have so many things in your life that light you up. So
Yeah, and taking those experiences though, think about that. Like your experience as a teacher led you to some of those acting roles, right? You played a teacher a few times.
Yes, and also, like, the perspective of the world being bigger than the entertainment industry is so
Yeah.
important to me, because truly there'll be times where, and I'm passionate about mindset because I need it, and I like to share tools that help me in moments where I'm spiraling and getting, like, a little bit grippy or intense about an audition. I'm like, remember some of the things you've seen and been through, and trying to bring myself back to a place of perspective, I think, is the only way to really maintain a sense of being grounded and knowing what's ultimately important while we navigate the business.
And that's something that we talk about a lot, is the reality of the business. And sometimes you don't know where your career is going to go. You need to make sure that you have something of your own to hold on to, because there's so much out of your control in this business. And starting your own coaching business was something that I thought was so smart and just made so much sense for you, because so many people seek out your expertise and they feel comfortable with you. And I think with a lot of actors, bringing out the best in them is really through working with someone who makes them feel confident and comfortable, and a little silly sometimes, and some questions that you might have that you don't feel comfortable maybe asking another coach. You're so nurturing, and I think that comes across in your coaching. Yeah, absolutely. And I've studied with a lot of coaches before. I have studied theater and television commercial classes and all of those things, and also went to HB Studio in New York. But when I worked with you, I felt like it was working with my best friend, which is like the best feeling, because you feel comfortable messing up or asking questions or trying something new that maybe you don't necessarily think of. And like, those are just some of the aspects that I felt, working with you was such a wonderful experience. And talk a little bit about your process when you're coaching. What kind of makes your process different than other coaches out there?
Oh, first of all, thank you. That makes me that moves me a lot, because I think what has informed my style is when I was younger, I had a lot of really rigid and punitive voices in my sphere of like, how bad do you want this? What are you willing to do? Kind of like this hustle culture, sacrifice yourself and your happiness for your art, or you'll never make it. And what does that even mean? And I think allowing ourselves to not shame ourselves for feeling all the feelings, because the dream will kick your butt, right? And having a person that you feel A, won't judge you, and B, will lift you up in moments of vulnerability and self-doubt. Like, there has to be space for all the feelings, right? And I think just using what we have, that spectrum of emotions, and channeling it, and having someone that's your champion and also who has put the work in themselves and is constantly refining their craft, that's really important to me. I never share anything that I don't practice myself. I go to a coach, I work on my mindset. These are all things that are really important to me, because, I like to joke that we're never finished. We just keep going. You can get to a new echelon, and then you've got new mindset challenges, and you've got new craft challenges, and you've got to take care of yourself in a new way. So I think when we shift from when am I going to make it and when am I going to arrive, to how do I want to show up in this business, and how do I want to create a framework for myself so that with each new challenge, I have people that I trust. I know I can trust myself. I don't like anyone to be dependent on a coach, right? Because we have to be able to trust ourselves. And then have people at our disposal who we can utilize, who are there to lift us up and hold space for all the things and celebrate wins with us.
Yeah.
So,
And I love how you use the word champion you. That's exactly what you are. You're like that cheerleader and that champion. And that really does bring out the best. In, at least for me, I know that was always something that I felt with you. Like, you were always my go-to person. I was like, when I booked something, or if I had a callback, I was like, I have to call Lauren. Like, that's like the first person I wanted to call, because you are such a cheerleader, just a championing everyone. Let's talk about the business a little bit too. What do you wish you knew when you started out that you know now that probably will help a lot of up and comers going into the business?
I love this question. I think I thought there would be a moment where worth would suddenly wash over me. That somehow I would feel worthy, and that I had arrived, and that I did the thing. And I think you realize no one has anything figured out. We're all doing the best we can. And that I was kind of fed the lie when I was a kid that you had to put in the work, and or you wouldn't get the thing. It was a very different kind of culture, than I feel now. That there was this kind of struggling suffering artist mentality, and you could justify sacrificing your mental and physical health for the dream. And I think that kind of feeds, if anyone has any kind of self-worth issues or worthiness, struggles with shame or self-worth, that feeds that beast. And I just wish someone told me, like, hey, you're doing the thing you love. You're always going to figure it out. Side hustles are a great thing. And also, you're as worthy on your worst day as you are when you are on the mountaintop. And I think it's something that has to be lived. I don't know if someone had told me that at 16, that I'd be like, oh, check, okay, worth is never
Yeah.
on the line. But I think it's important to talk about and remember. And I like to say with anyone that I work with, what are you currently doing to celebrate your wins and to give yourself the validation that we kind of love to look for in this business?
Yeah.
Because
That
we're not
totally
going to
makes
get.
sense. That validation is something that's so toxic in this business. It's just something that I think a lot of people don't talk about, that when we are starting to grow as actors or individuals, we're always looking for validation from somebody who we think has it all figured out. And
Mhm.
nobody has it figured out. It's all BS. Nobody has it figured out because the industry is constantly changing. You're constantly growing and evolving. And the second you start to let go of other people's opinions about
Mhm.
you and how you approach a scene or life or whatever you do, the more free you are to make creative choices and to be more confident on a set or in a room or with somebody. So the second I let go of that constant search for validation was when
Mhm.
I was just such a better person and such a better actor, because I didn't care what anyone else thought. I was like, well, am I having fun right now?
Yeah.
Do I feel like I belong here? Do I feel like I'm giving it my best energy? And I think that
Mhm.
energy is something that we need to talk more about, because if the energy is being sucked out of you, and like
Mhm.
you said, that constant toxic, hammering home, like you need to suffer, and that was such a good word, in order to make it or to
Right.
be this fictional being,
Mhm.
it's a horrible way to grow. And I think that your approach to coaching is so needed and necessary to bring out the best in everybody, but also to bring out the best performance on set. I really do.
Thank you. And I feel like it's worth mentioning. I coached someone this week, and we were focusing on mindset, and they said, do you feel this way? And they were talking about, kind of imposter syndrome and fear and nerves. And I said, I felt that yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, these are things, these feelings don't go away. With each new moment, they're they're still present, but I think when we have tools in place, and again, resources at our disposal and people to reach out to hold space for us, we can redirect more quickly, right? It's
Mhm.
not like we're going to suddenly arrive and never have a negative feeling again. It's just our bounce back time becomes quicker. And that to me is really exciting. So when we get interested about what's going on and not shaming ourselves for it, we can continue to grow as people and as artists.
So challenges never really disappear. What are some of the current challenges that you're facing right now, and how are you really navigating those? Because we're always going to have challenges in this business and in life. Hello, it's real life. How do you really navigate that?
Such a great question. So right now, what I'm working on is, as you know, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I didn't know there would be kind of turning points where, as you see more abundance and more success, the opportunities get larger, and the expectation has to get even smaller, because it's always about the work. But I think sometimes, you get a little attached and want to book something, but you might be up against, huge stars for bigger opportunities. So I don't ever want to go into something detached or not invested. I always want to give 150%, because I think, you know, good work begets fans and future opportunities that we can't see. But I think, I was coaching with someone, and for myself and on my work, and having them look at my tapes, and they said, keep focusing on the work and detaching from the outcome, because now it's not a numbers game. It's really about longevity and really settling in when you're going up against big stars and validating yourself and
Mm.
not looking for the result.
Yes.
And, that's something I never could have predicted, right? And I love to zoom out and get some distance and be like, if your younger self knew that was a conversation you'd ever have, they'd be jumping up and down screaming, like
Yeah.
it's so exciting. But when you're in it, you think I'm so grateful for my team. I love them and I want to make them proud. Making them proud is doing the work. It's not always about results because we don't see results immediately, right? So I think for anyone who is attached to the outcome is constantly saying, how can I zoom out, appreciate where I am, focus on doing my best work, and letting go and trusting that like things unfold the way they should.
Ugh, that was so well said. And Lauren does not brag on herself enough. Like, I need to get her to brag on herself a little bit more, because you have starred opposite so many incredible Hollywood stars like Bruce Willis. And most recently, I don't know what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not, so I'm not going to say too much. But can we hear a little bit of the behind the scenes of what it's like to work with such well-known actors in a space where you're still growing? I mean, you are light years ahead of so many others who are starting out, but you're still at the phase where now you're working with the big dogs, if I'd like to say. And that has to kind of rattle you in a way of, okay, now this is the big time. Like, and like I said before, how do you really know that you make it? Everyone has their own definition of making it. But now that you're really in the room with these people and you're on set with these people and you are head to head with them, what was it like to do that? And also, what were some of your most memorable performances and with who?
Whew. I love this question and thank you. I really love to have perspective, like we talked about before, of knowing what the big picture is and what really matters, to ground myself and not freak myself out about, oh my gosh, this is a name, this is a star, you got to impress, you got to perform. And having the mindset of, I'm here to serve the story, I'm here to support them and have fun. We talked about energy before, really bringing good energy, doing the work. It's why I coached with you. And one of my favorite experiences ever. I mean, I'll be forever grateful to you and the whole team behind Florida Man, because working opposite Paul Schneider, working opposite Edgar Ramirez, like those moments, knowing I'd put in the work so I could show up and have fun and let go. That and none of them had ego. They just wanted to do the work. And you see that with, really incredible sought after stars. Like
Yeah.
you want to be around them for 16 hours a day, so being mindful of that energy, that was a really incredible experience. And saying, okay, I've put the work in, and then kind of like an internal pep talk of staying grounded, having perspective, and then saying, this is what you do that work for. So you can show up and do the thing you love. And I love to say to myself kind of internally, like, I've been through worse than this. Like, this is not scary.
Yeah.
No one's life is at stake here, and I had some health challenges in my early 20s, and I have this bangle that I wear that my parents gave me that says nothing's worth more than this day. And that kind of keeps me grounded in perspective and saying, like, honey, you've overcome a lot. We've worked so hard. Now enjoy it.
God,
So
having that perspective is so important. And I think for everyone, they reach that point at all different times in their career. I mean, it took me, it might have taken you health challenges, but it took me health challenges and like a loss of my dad or like 2 kids to look at life and be like, acting is just a blip on the screen of life. It is a beautiful blip. And
yes.
when you do what you love and you are afforded the opportunity to do that, it is a gift. And having the perspective of it being a gift and knowing that it can be taken away at any moment should be enough of a push to say, enjoy the moment, be present in the moment, and don't worry about the outcome. Like you said, that was so well said, is don't worry about the outcome because you're not focusing on the present.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, again, if we're looking for validation in the wrong places, if we're looking for the affirmation of the director or the team or,
Yes.
our co-star, whatever, then that can be felt. It's kind of that icky energy of like, approve of me, tell me I'm enough. And that's what the work we have to do on our own so that we can show up in those moments, recalibrate our nervous system, and enjoy doing the thing we love rather than trying to get it right.
Right. And I think we've all had experiences in the past that have been traumatic on a set. Like, I could go on for days about trauma on a set. But when you have good experiences, like I just had a conversation with John Scott, one of the directors I worked with, and he's director on Netflix's You, and he's a big time director and just the most humble, wonderful human being, just like you. And we were talking about the experiences that are on set with between actors and directors and how crucial it is to have a sense of calm on a set from a director, and the director sets the tone a lot of the time. And if you don't have a director that sets a good Zen-like tone, that could throw you for the day. But like you said, working your mindset, because you're not going to get a great, calm, Zen-like director every time. You're just not. That's just not reality. So you have to go in yourself and really find the calm within. What are some of the techniques that you use to really bring that calm over you? Because I've done breathing techniques, I've done visualization, I've done those things, but what works for you when you're walking into a situation like that? And maybe the director is not so, not so great to work with. And you're like, I got to figure this out on my own. What are some of the techniques that you go for?
Again, such a great question. I first like to seek out opportunities to make myself nervous before the day of filming. So, just as an example, on Florida Man, I coached with you because I respect you. I love you. You intimidate me in a good way. Like, I know you are a hard worker, know your stuff, and have this breadth of expertise that I don't in the, in terms of your past and your experiences. So I wanted to practice my news anchor voice and train with you, right? So that made me nervous. And I think giving myself that experience before filming, it helps you sit with those feelings so you're not, on the first take getting butterflies out. Seeking out, I'll do a mock Zoom callback with a friend before I have a callback to kind of get that out. And then if I'm on the receiving end of tricky energy, knowing that I have either a friend or a coach who's safe to, let's say, I get chewed out on set. Then when I go back to my trailer or when they're changing setups, like just reaching out and saying, hey, I'm breathing through this. I was on the receiving end of some not so nice behavior. I know it's not about me. I'm doing my best. This is part of the job. I love you. Have a great day. I'm a verbal processor. So sometimes I think it's why I'm effusive towards people. Like, I know we all like to be affirmed. So then I'll get a little affirmation, a little reset, and I'm back to do my job. But I think realizing that's part of the job, that in those high pressure situations, there's a lot of personalities there. It's, when you're dealing with a lot of money and very little time and resources in some cases, that, the pressure is on and your job is to be steady. So I think breath, zooming out, having that perspective of, okay, I'll literally say internally to myself, like, you've been through worse than this. Remember who you are. And doing some, just like tapping meditation if I have the time to reset my nervous system, listening to something inspiring like a podcast or reaching out to a friend. I like to say, like, having like a little bag of tricks when it comes to mindset.
Yes.
And then, you do your best moment to moment, realizing that that's part of it.
Those are such great tips and tools to really implement to get you prepared for that day. I always had like a bag of tricks or something, like a go-to, like worst case scenario. I remember back in the day when they came out with the worst case scenario handbook. I don't know if anyone's ever read it. And I'm like, I am so that person that I will have that book on my coffee table and be like, okay, worst case scenario. And like literally the worst case scenarios, but it will for me anyway, help me to get through the preparation, but also what's the worst that can happen? We'll get through it. Big deal, you know? And very rarely has the worst case scenario happened, one or two times on set.
Right.
But we've all been there. And I feel like that's part of the growth process. Like that's like part of the initiation. Like you can never start with a really smooth experience on set. Like I think there's always got to be one or two that you can throw back to and be like, oh yeah, that was just not a good day. or what could I do different next time? So now I know not to do that again, you know? So great tips. Great tips. I love them all. And I want to end with a few fun questions because I first of all, I just miss you so much and I just want to play a little bit longer before I let you go. But okay, favorite movie or favorite series that you're binging right now? Anything that is on your list right now?
Right. Favorite movie series ever or right now?
Let's start with right now.
Okay. Right now. Oof, that's so tough. I really enjoyed Love and Death. Um, and mm, I really enjoyed Love and Death. I'll stick with Love and Death for right now.
Okay, and your favorite ever?
My favorite ever. Okay, I have the cool answer and then the honest answer, but they're neck and neck.
God, tell me them both. Tell me them both.
Cool answer for favorite film of all time is Almost Famous. Perfect movie.
Oh my God, yes. Oh yes.
And then honestly, Legally Blonde.
I love it. I probably have watched that 50 times. Every time it's on, I'll watch it. Like soup to nuts, beginning to end. I will. Yeah. And it's hilarious because it's a good break from reality. It's so funny. And she's just so good. I'm a huge Reese Witherspoon fan. Like not only as an actor, but like producer. And like now she's got this incredible production company and she's just making so many waves. And I just love her. I love her. Loved her in Big Little Lies. Yeah. Love her in that. Okay. Next question. Celebrity crush.
Ooh. Yikes.
It could be past or it could be current.
So I'll say that my first celebrity crush ever was John Travolta. I loved Grease so much as a child. I was in love with John Travolta as a child. I'm embarrassed because he's married now, so it's not current.
It's okay. We're not. Great. This is all theoretical.
Great. Okay, great. Can you tell I'm like a goody?
Nobody's coming after you, I promise.
Thank you. I had such a crush on John Krasinski during The Office.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
I love the boy next door, the sweet guy. Yeah. But I wish him and Emily Blunt all the best.
But he's so lovable. First of all, like The Office was one of my all-time favorites, but his character, yes, very funny, quirky, lovable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could totally see that. Yes. Love the John Krasinski. Okay. What is your next power move? What are you looking to really accomplish within the next 5 to 10 years?
So it's so funny that you mentioned Reese Witherspoon producing because I just took my first venture into producing. So Madison Hatfield created a short called I Could Dom that I fell in love with when I saw the reading of it. So I became an executive producer on that project. And I joked with her, I was like, this is me stepping into my Hello Sunshine era.
Yes.
So, that was my entry into producing. And I've been really excited about that.
Oh my God, I could totally see that happening. That's so exciting. And as creatives, we never stop growing. So that is just a natural progression. And I cannot wait to see what else you come out with. And I love that you're not so pigeonholed into just acting. And I think that that's such an important thing to talk about, and I could stay on with you forever. But the fact that you're coaching, you're producing, you're acting, you're training, you're doing all of the things that are feeding the creative energy, but also laying the groundwork for being a really successful entrepreneur. I mean, because we're all entrepreneurs as creatives. We're all building our brands and businesses. So I applaud that. I completely. And anyone who needs coaching or training needs to reach out to Lauren. I have trained with her. I will only train with her. I love her to death. So where can everyone find you?
Yes, the best place to find me is on Instagram, Lauren_Buglioli. And I have a link to my Calendly schedule, and feel free to DM me anytime, and so we can connect. And look forward to meeting you and supporting you.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me. I am just so happy that we had, it took an interview for us to actually get on a Zoom call, but we have to have a date soon. I miss you.
Yes, I know. I'm so excited to see you and catch up. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so proud of you and so inspired by you always, and truly so, so grateful for you. And to be your hype woman, anyone who needs coaching, please reach out to Nicole, because you're such a gift, and I'm so grateful for all the ways you've encouraged me and inspired me. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.